Thank all of you for having me here today. It's an honor to be here. I'm a fellow Rotarian. I'm a member of the East Louisville Rotary Club. So I'm very proud to be standing before you here today. For those of you who may not know me, Bill did a wonderful job of explaining who I am, but let me go into it a little bit further. I'm Brooks Wicker. I'm running for Congress for Kentucky's 3rd District. I'm a 29-year resident of the 3rd District. I've been married to my beautiful wife, Linda, for 29 years. We have a 19-year-old son who's a Trinity grad and is attending the University of Kentucky for his freshman year. As Bill said, I've had my own CPA firm and financial advisory firm for 18 years. Prior to that, I spent 10 years in industry as an upper-level financial executive in 5 different industries. Prior to that, I worked in public accounting for a couple of the large regional firms here in town. Unlike my opponent who spoke here last week, I will leave time at the end for questions, so please write them down and pass them forward. I look forward to having that opportunity to answer your questions. Now, I may not enter this election with a big name, but what I do bring is far more important to the job. In a 30-year career as a CPA, small business owner, executive, and financial advisor, I've experienced fixing precisely the type of fiscal and economic problems that our great nation faces today. Excessive spending, poor decision making, and a lack of planning for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, in all of my years in business, never have I seen our economy in a more precarious position, with more uncertainty for what the future holds for our great nation. Congress's inability to get anything done has led us to a cliff that threatens to throw us into recession at a time when families and small businesses are already struggling just to get by. I can't sit by and just watch that happen. That's why I've undertaken the very big challenge of running for Congress. I don't take the responsibility of representing the people lightly. When Americans choose who will go to the Capitol and stand in their place, who will make the laws that guide them, and the decisions that keep them secure, they do that with a sense of responsibility and seriousness. This sense of duty in voting is the most American of traits, and it's the envy of the world. Quite frankly, I don't pretend to be a man of destiny, but I am a man well prepared by my life and my work to succeed at the task ahead of me. I am a businessman, I'm a family man and a father, I'm a member of my church, and a concerned citizen. I'm someone who felt, finally, that if those who are currently entrusted with serving the best interests of our community are not going to do so, I would undertake that task myself. As a businessman, like so many in our community, I've faced setbacks. I've had business ventures that didn't work out. The lingering recession has been hard on my business and my client base. It's meant decreased revenues while expenses continue to climb and vendors and employees continue to need to be paid. I've faced client bankruptcies as well as clients selling their businesses to forestall a bankruptcy, and more are teetering on the brink of ruin. Looking around me, I see too many schools failing to educate our children. I see too many victims of violent crime in our streets. I see too many people losing their jobs, losing their businesses, and losing hope. And I refuse just to sit back and watch it happen. I see all these things and I wonder, where's our leadership? My opponent in this race thinks that a massive government spending, increasing regulations, a mountain of debt, and higher taxes are the way to make a better future for our children. I couldn't disagree more. I believe that continuing with his policies will force our children and even their children into a future of limited choices and dependence on the federal government, with no opportunity to live the American dream that we have been so fortunate to enjoy. A whole generation of Americans is already experiencing the results of this economic insecurity. Young people, particularly those ages 18 to 24, now face unemployment rate of 16.3% with no relief in sight. And Americans between 22 and 55 are unemployed at a rate of 25%, the highest rate in 3 decades. We are in danger of leaving the next generation with a world of less opportunity than the one we received. And that's just unacceptable. You see, when I was growing up, my parents taught me when you borrow something, you give it back better than you got it. Well, folks, we don't own this country. Future generations own this country. Our kids and their kids. It's our duty to pass it along to them better than we got it, just as our parents and grandparents did for us. So how did we come to this? Well, it's really pretty simple. We have a leadership vacuum in Washington. By choosing politics over the well-being of the American people, Congress and the White House have put us in a position to fail rather than to succeed. But despite where we find ourselves, I remain confident we can fix things because we've faced hard times before and Americans have always overcome it. I believe that with fresh, bold ideas, we can help create a climate where Louisville businesses can create jobs and hire again. By reforming our tax code and allowing businesses to bring home money that's already been taxed overseas, we can inject trillions of dollars into our economy right away. These private sector funds will boost the economy and help get things going again. And they'll provide exactly the kind of stimulus we should have gotten in the first place. Make no mistake, and let's be clear, America is not broken. What's broken are the promises made by our elected representatives in Washington. And we must hold them accountable for their actions. Just last week, my opponent lauded the accomplishments of the current administration. I disagree with him on many of the things he said. Let's look at the true record of President Obama. President Obama has had nearly 4 years to turn around our economy. Yet the economy is growing at a meager 1.3%. Real unemployment is 11.7%. Record numbers of Americans are on food stamps and living in poverty. The national debt has increased by 50% and is still climbing. The price of gasoline has doubled, and the prices in the grocery store continue to spiral, all while incomes have fallen. I guess it all depends on how you measure growth. You can measure it the way John appears to measure it, or you can measure it the way we do in the real world of business, finance, and accounting. Using math and accounting, if we look at the national debt, January 20th, 2009, the national debt was $10.6 trillion. That's the day Obama was sworn in. And that's the debt that had been built up for every president from George Washington through George W. Bush. As of last Thursday at 4 p.m., that's the day John was here speaking, it was $16 trillion, and I rounded down. This is an increase of 50.9% in less than 3 years. Yet John wants us to believe President Obama has increased spending less than any president since 1968. According to John, President Obama has increased spending by only 8%. Well, folks, if you believe the U.S. Census Bureau's figures, they put out the figures of government expenditures and government revenues every year. President Obama has actually increased our spending by 31%. In 2008, government expenditures were $2.9 trillion. While in 2011, expenditures were $3.8 trillion. All of this while John admitted that federal revenues have remained flat during that time frame. It just doesn't add up. But it gets worse, folks. John's had 6 years in Congress. And while he hasn't been governing alone, he does bear his share of responsibility for his votes and for the situation we find ourselves in. After 6 years, we can no longer accept as a response it's someone else's fault. Just last week, we were told that all of our problems can be blamed on George Bush, who's been out of office for almost 4 years, the Republican Party, or now an unelected lobbyist named Grover Norquist. Don't just take my word for it, folks. John was here last week, and I couldn't believe he was actually making my case for me. Let's just look at his record for the last 6 years. Real unemployment is double what it was the day he took office. Our national debt has increased by 86% from January 2007 to more than the $16 trillion and counting. According to John's own words, wealth has decreased by 39% during his tenure in Congress. Also, according to his numbers, family incomes have decreased by $7,000 a year. The annual cost to Louisville families of John's votes on 3 issues alone, health care, taxes, and his support of the EPA, come to more than $3,000 a year. We also learned in the debate last night that health care costs over the last 2 years have increased by $2,500 per family. If you add all that up, folks, the out-of-pocket cost to Louisville families of John's 6 years in Congress is more than $12,500 a year. That's out of pocket. I can't afford it. Louisville families can't afford that. You in this room are each leaders in your communities. You're men and women who've banded together to make a difference, driven by a desire to make life better for others. And this is what our country needs more of in these tough times. People coming together to fix what ails us, not politicians passing the buck. Either you're in charge or you aren't. And if you're one of the 435 representatives sent to Washington, then you're in charge. And you should own up to your record. If you are entrusted with the rare opportunity of being able to do more for people who you represent, then you have an obligation to lead, not to just follow. So if you believe what John himself told you and the statistics he gave you, I think it's clear. We must trace a significant part of the problems we have today to failed policies and wrong votes. Well, folks, this November, we have a choice to make, and it's a very important choice. We can continue on the path that has led us to a broken economy and a national debt that tops $16 trillion. Or we can choose to give someone else a chance to lead. Someone with 3 decades of experience helping struggling businesses turn around, grow, and yes, create jobs. I'm confident we can fix the problems we face if we are willing to make the tough decisions and accept responsibility for the choices we make. I'm Brooks Wicker. I'm running for Congress, and I ask for your support in November. If you would, please visit my webpage. It's just my name, brookswicker.com. There you can find out more about me, my campaign, and my views. And you can sign up to get involved. So together, we can create a world where future generations can enjoy the American dream. Thank you.